Hi BookTube, it's Amy. I'm here with my Friday reads as usual. I've only got a couple of books to talk about this week, and one book that I'm intending to read in the coming week, although I did mention it last week in my Friday reads. I am intending to read North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell because I have a buddy read lined up for October 4th, I think, or possibly October 6th. I forget right now, but I have a buddy read lined up with Janelle from All the World's a Page for later this week, and I'm hoping she's got her copy so that we can start. But whether we start on time or not, I'm looking forward to reading that book. And then I did finish this week, today, Man Should Rejoice by Hugh McLennan, which I've talked about, let me grab that book here, which I've talked about in a couple of videos in the last week. And this is, I'll just reiterate again in case you didn't see my other videos, this is a unpublished work by the great Canadian author Hugh McLennan. And it was written in 1937, but it was rejected by several publishers, and he essentially shelved it. A couple years after this, he finally did publish his very first published novel, Barometer Rising, but despite all his success, when he essentially could have published anything, he never went back to have publishers take a second look at Man Should Rejoice. And for good reason, because it is a very clumsy novel. There are good points, there are points when I can hear his writing style coming through, but there are other points where the book just structurally doesn't flow as it should, and where frankly I was a little bit confused just because of some of the points that McLennan was trying to make. They didn't come through, including the ending. There is a death near the end of the book, and it's quite sudden, and then suddenly the novel is over, and we see an inkling of our main character grappling with that death, but he has sort of a almost religious moment at the end, and it's sort of, a tone of, and that's the way it was. But I just didn't get the ending, and I felt it wasn't well done, and McLennan could have done more with it. Near the end, we actually get, I'm not familiar with the particulars of the event, but there is a civil war or a revolution of sorts happening in Austria in the build-up to the Second World War. And our character David finds himself in the midst of that with a family member of his who is from Austria. And so you have that kind of tacked on to the end, but the rest of the novel was not about that. The rest of the novel was about David as the son of a wealthy American business owner, struggling with, coming to terms with a relationship with his father, struggling with the events of the Great Depression, and with ideology and communism and politics, and with his own desire to paint. And then suddenly he's over there in Austria, and people are dying around him, and then the novel's over. So overall, not a very well done novel, but I am glad that I read it. I'm glad that I bought it. I'm glad that it was published in a critical edition, because as a fan of Hugh McLennan, as an avid lover of his novels, it was really a wonderful experience to read something that he had written earlier in life, and to see some of his characteristic trademarks beginning to emerge in this earlier work. So not something that I would recommend if you're new to Hugh McLennan, but if you read all his novels, if you really love him, then perhaps this is something that you might like to pick up. So then, I also started this past week. I'm only about 80 pages in. The hype was too much. I felt very left out, and I just had to go and find this novel. And in fact, I went to 3 separate bookstores on several occasions. I first thought about reading this book about 2 weeks ago, and I was in a mall here in Ottawa, stopped into the bookstore, thought, I'll go in and pick it up. It's nominated for the Booker, it's been longlisted. Surely there must be a copy of this book in a mainstream bookstore. Go in, nowhere in sight, think, oh, okay, this must be too small of a location. The next weekend, I was at the Chapters at the Rideau Centre, which is the largest mall in the city of Ottawa. It's just a stone's throw from Parliament Hill. The Rideau Centre is a big deal. The Chapters there is a big deal. Surely they have a copy. Not a copy in sight. Checked their computers, and all the Chapters in the city was showing up with 0 copies, 0 copies, 0 copies. And so I said, okay, maybe I can just go home and order this on Amazon. And then my spending conscious was getting to me, and I said, I don't really want to spend any money on Amazon at the moment. I really shouldn't do that. And so then I let it lie until this past weekend, where I had watched several more people talk about this book, and I said to myself, what? I would really like to read that. And I don't want to read it on Monday. It's Saturday, and I want to start reading it today. I'll just go and get a copy. And so I go back to the Chapters at the Rideau Centre, thinking it's been a week, this is a popular book, surely they must have a copy in now. Once again, 0 copies. So I check the computer system again, and there is 1 copy at the South Keys Chapters here in Ottawa. And so off I go, and I get to the bookshop, and I go straight to the fiction section, and there I see it, 1 final copy on the shelf, and I take it to the checkout, and the cashier says to me, "This is a pretty popular book. I'm surprised you found a copy." And so I said to him, I think I may have gotten one of the last copies in the entire city of Ottawa. But yeah, Duck's Newburyport. I have decided to join the crowd and dive into this interesting and bizarre novel. And pretty soon I'll be able to tell you whether it's been overhyped or not. So this is, if you haven't heard about it by some strange chance, this is a novel by Lucy Ellmann, and it's written in stream of consciousness. It is approximately 1,000 pages long, and it's about a mother, a housewife. Possibly she has discussed a little bit in her thoughts, having worked at a university in the past, but at the moment she seems to be alone in her kitchen in the early morning, and she is preparing to bake and cook. And I would guess that she perhaps doesn't leave her kitchen in the entire day, in the entire novel. And so far I'm really enjoying it. It sounds like a bizarre concept. It sounds like something that would be really boring, but it's quite engaging, it's quite interesting. I'm liking the references to Laura Ingalls and the Little House on the Prairie books. I'm liking her pop culture references to people like Miley Cyrus, the song lyrics that pop into her head. The only thing at this point that bothers me a bit about it is a lot of her thoughts begin with the fact that. Now, unless there is something off with her mind, I wouldn't think she would be beginning so many thoughts with the fact that, unless she is obsessing with this phrase for some reason. Our thoughts, as we come to our head, they don't begin with the fact that, the fact that. The fact that I'm sitting in this chair, the fact that I'm holding a glass of wine, the fact that I bought Duck's Newburyport, the fact that I have a potluck at work tomorrow and I bought cheese and Noah Martin summer sausage, the fact that it's cold today here in Ottawa, the fact that it was 6 degrees this morning, the fact that I had to put on my winter coat, the fact that Kelsey was at her desk this morning later than usual, the fact that I bought a Twix chocolate bar, the fact that I got high praise at work, the fact that I went to a networking seminar, the fact that this is Cabernet. And that is essentially how this book goes. Not every thought starts with the fact that, but every few thoughts do begin with that phrase, the fact that. I expect that I will be coming to you for many, many more weeks with this book. I think that I will be taking it on vacation with me. I leave for vacation a week from Friday, so a week from today when you're seeing this. A week from today when you're seeing this, I'll be on the train headed from Ottawa to Toronto. And when you comment on this video, if you do, I'll be seeing your comments from my seat on the train, most likely. And I'll get into Toronto about 10 a.m. or so, catch a second train, and I'll be on my way and cozy in my mom's kitchen by the time 2 o'clock arrives, which will be quite nice. But that is what I'm reading at the moment. This could take me 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 weeks to finish. If you've managed to read this one already, let me know how long it took you. I will be reading other stuff on the side, so to speak, because it is Victober, and I've actually started listening to, I almost forgot about this, but I actually started listening to an audiobook, the Great Courses series from Audible, on Victorian society. I think I'm forgetting exactly what the audiobook is called, but I'll be sure to link it in the description below. I would check, but that would require taking my phone off the tripod and going into the Audible app, which I can't do because I'm recording with my phone. But I'm enjoying that audiobook so far. I didn't realize that Queen Victoria had become queen so young at the age of 18. I did know that she went into mourning after the death of her husband, and I believe she spent, more of her life in mourning than she did married to her husband. But yeah, it's an interesting audiobook. I'm looking forward to learning more about Victorian England and hearing some things that'll perhaps give me some more context into the books that I'm reading. At this point, I have plans to read North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. I might do a reread of Mansfield Park because it's been a while, and we'll see what else I end up reading. I do intend to finish Tommy and Grizel by J.M. Barrie as well. I just realized I haven't touched that book since my last Friday reads. But I'm not sure when that one was published. I think that one might scrape in just at the end of the Victorian period, but on the other hand, it's possible that that was after the end of the Victorian period. But regardless of what I read, I will be back next Friday to tell you what I've been reading for Victober and my continued thoughts on Ducks Newburyport by Lucy Ellmann. Let me know what you're reading this weekend in the comments below, and if you're doing Victober, how that's going for you so far.